Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne, and you are listening to Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. While researching another case that I have coming up for you guys, I stumbled across this little piece of information about a certain song I used to like back in the 90s called Possession by Sarah McLachlan. I found the story behind the song very disturbing, so I dug in a little deeper and I found a couple other songs that were inspired by actual true crime cases. So today we are going to be doing an episode on murder ballads, or songs inspired by true crime cases. This is episode 56, Murder Ballads. You seriously do not know what you are singing along to sometimes. Ricky was a young boy. He had a heart of stone, lived 9 to 5, and he worked his fingers to the bone. Just barely out of school, came from the edge of town, fought like a switchblade so no one could take him down. No, if you are super cool, you know that is 18 in Life by Skid Row, or also known as my karaoke go-to song. Most fans believed that this song was written by guitarist Dave Sabo because he got the idea from a newspaper article about a guy named Ricky who was only 18 years old, and he was sentenced to death for killing his friend with a gun because he had too much alcohol to drink that night. That is not true, though. This song was actually written about Ricky, Dave Sabo's brother, or Rick, who started to go down a downward spiral once he returned home from the Vietnam War. 18 in Life was a fictional song inspired by events that could have likely happened if someone went down the wrong path. A lot of murder ballads tell the story from the point of view of the murderer or the serial killer or the stalker. Just think Every Breath You Take by The Police. Obviously, I do not have enough money to buy the rights to any of these songs to play them for you, but maybe I'll try to hum some or maybe sing a little bit of each one just to lighten up the mood. And speaking of stalkers, let's get into the song Possession by Sarah McLachlan. Sarah McLachlan is a Canadian singer-songwriter, and the song Possession was on her album Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. It was the first single off of that album. It was written and composed by Sarah herself, and it was released in Canada on September 10th, 1993. At first listen, this sounds like a gorgeous, romantic, very whimsical love song. And the lyrics might allude to that if you did not know the meaning behind the song. This song was inspired by Sarah's reaction to two deranged fans who were both stalking her. They were constantly writing her letters, and they were concocting these fantasies in which they thought they were already in this strange relationship with her, even though they had never met her, ever. I mean, that has got to be creepy as fuck. In an interview, Sarah McLachlan recalled how she wrote the lyrics to Possession. She said, "I tried to put myself into their shoes, into the mind of someone who is so obsessed with another person that they could conceive murdering them. It took me a while to justify that one. As a woman living with that fear in the back of your mind every day with the possibility of being raped. And it's kind of weird for me. But then I save myself in the third verse by saying I'd never really act on it, except in my dreams. And maybe that's putting me into a false sense of reality, but it did help. Not just that, but writing the whole song was kind of a cleansing thing for me, because I had two people in particular who just became incredibly intense with the fantasy world that they created and demanded that that was reality and we had to be together. And they went to great lengths to make this happen. It became frightening, but it ticked me off that I had to look over my shoulder every time I walked out that door. There was one point where I was told I'd have to have a bodyguard. It was like, screw that. I don't want to live in fear. It makes me so angry. Sarah would say that writing the song Possession was very therapeutic. It's funny because almost every letter I get these days, the writer of the letter says, "I'm not one of those psycho fans." The title of the song Possession refers to two things: the desire of the man to possess this woman that he idolizes, and the fact that he is possessed by an abnormal passion for someone that he truly does not know. Huey Vandre was a computer programmer from Ottawa, Ontario. Huey wrote Sarah so many letters that this caught her attention, but not in the way that he was hoping it would catch her attention. Obviously, Sarah's guards are completely up at this point with this man, and she did use some of his words taken directly from his letters as her lyrics in the song Possession. And Huey decided to go on an Ottawa radio station and read his letters to everyone to prove that Sarah was plagiarizing his letters. And he didn't stop there. He actually ended up taking Sarah McLachlan to court, claiming that the lyrics to her song Possession were directly taken from his letters, and he tried to sue her. This case never actually ended up going to court because soon before trial would begin, Huey Vandre died by suicide. These are some of the lyrics to the song Possession, which I will not be singing for you because I actually just tried and then I went back and deleted it because no. The night is my companion and solitude my guide. Would I spend forever here and not be satisfied? And I would be the one to hold you down, kiss you so hard, I'll take your breath away. And after I wipe away the tears, just close your eyes, dear. You must go listen to that song when you are finished with this episode. That song is so haunting. It is so beautiful. I wish that I could play it for you, but maybe I'll make a playlist of these songs and I'll add it to my show notes for you. The next song I'm going to talk about is written from the perspective of an American rapist and kidnapper from Lakewood, Washington, Gerald Arthur Friend. Polly wants a cracker. I think I should get off her first. I think she wants some water to put out the blowtorch. Now, when you know what that song is about, oh my God, like chills just run up and down every part of me, thinking about what this girl went through. Polly is not her name. That was just a name used by Kurt Cobain from Nirvana when he wrote the song Polly. The title of the song is genius because Polly is usually associated with the name that people call their parrots, as in, Polly want a cracker? Polly want a cracker? And parrots can be trained. Victims of assault can also be trained or conditioned to do what their abusers tell them to do. The song Polly, which was included on the second album of Nirvana's called Nevermind, released in September of 1991, was written about the abduction, rape, and torture of a 14-year-old girl that was returning home from a concert in Tacoma, Washington. This was in 1987. According to an article on AmericanSongwriter.com, in a 1991 interview, the bassist of Nirvana, Chris Novoselic, said, "That song, Polly, it's a true story. It's about a young girl who was abducted. The guy drove her around in his van, tortured her, raped her. The only chance she had of getting away was to come on to him and persuade him to untie her, and that's what she did, and she got away. Can you imagine how much strength that took?" Polly was written solely by Kurt Cobain, and he had originally titled this song Hitchhiker. Gerald's friend had offered a ride to the 14-year-old girl as she was walking down the street. She had just left a rock concert and she was walking home. So for the next 24 hours, he would torture this young girl. He raped her. He tied her up to a pulley that was suspended from the ceiling, and he lived in a mobile home. This girl was tortured with a blowtorch, and she knew that the only way for her to get out of this situation was to befriend this man. And he did end up taking her down from the pulley. He ended up handcuffing her, putting her back in the car. And as they drove, he ended up stopping at a gas station. And this is where she escaped and flagged down a sheriff. So this young girl is able to direct police to Gerald's home, but they can't find him. He's not there. Luckily, he does get pulled over a day later for a traffic violation, and this is when he is arrested by police. He was then convicted of first-degree kidnapping and rape. But this wasn't the first time that Gerald Friend had been convicted of abduction and rape. So why was he on the streets? In 1960, Gerald was originally jailed because he had abducted a 12-year-old girl from Sumner, Washington. This was in July of 1960. Gerald was 22 years old at the time. He had picked up this girl hitchhiking. She was actually hitchhiking with her brother, but Gerald had forced her brother out of the car at gunpoint. He then drives this girl to a park where he beats her, rapes her, and he cuts her hair. This victim is going to also eventually escape, and she escapes by jumping into a river. This is where she is discovered by a passing motorist. And then several days later, Gerald Friend is going to be arrested, and then he's going to be convicted of rape and torture, and he was sentenced to a minimum of 75 years. But after serving only 20, they were like, nah, dude, you're cool, you can go. So they paroled Gerald Friend in 1980. How the hell did this guy get paroled? Not only was he a rapist kidnapper who should never be allowed out no matter what, but he tried to escape the prison Walla Walla twice. And then they were like, no, it's cool, dude. You can go. I mean, you only served 20 years, but whatever. So this is the point now where the young girl, the 14-year-old, his second victim, who we call Polly, she's going to sue the Department of Corrections and the state for prematurely paroling this fucking asshole in 1980. From an article in the Spokane Chronicle dated Friday, September 16th, 1988, they say that Polly sued for an unspecified amount. I am not sure if she ever did get that amount. The article states that in her Pierce County Superior Court lawsuit, this 15-year-old Tacoma girl, through her guardian, contends the state and Department of Corrections acted with disregard for public safety by releasing Gerald Friend in 1980. Board members would order Friend to complete his sentence for the 1960 rape of the 12-year-old Sumner girl before he began serving the 75 years that they gave him for the June 1987 rape and kidnap of the Tacoma girl, Polly. Lyrics from Nirvana's Polly. Want some help? Please myself. Polly wants a cracker. Maybe she would like some food. She asked me to untie her. A chase would be nice for a few. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody here is out of sight. They don't bark and they don't bite. They keep things loose, they keep things light. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Yo, one take, everyone. How cool was that? I guess we should start by saying, sorry I just put you through that, but Dancing in the Moonlight is not just some awesome yacht rock song that everyone loves to just jam out to. Dancing in the Moonlight is a song written by Sherman Kelly, originally recorded in 1970 with Sherman's band Buffalongo, and it then became a hit single by King Harvest in 1972, reaching number 5 in Canada and number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. This song was written by Sherman Kelly after he was recovering from a vicious assault by a gang. He says, quote, I envisioned an alternate reality, the dream of a peaceful and joyful celebration of life. I found this fantastic article on vinyldialogues.com titled The Traumatic Experience That Inspired the Hit Dancing in the Moonlight. This article was written by Mike Morsch on May 3rd, 2020. Journalist Mike Morsch loves knowing the stories behind the songs, why they were written, the making of the albums, and he decided one day if he could possibly find Sherman Kelly and ask him if he'd consent to an interview about this story behind the song Dancing in the Moonlight, and Sherman Kelly agreed. So this is the article that I got a lot of this information from. I do have this article linked in the show notes. The story starts with Sherman Kelly and some of his friends running a nightclub in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and this was in 1969. One day, this group of friends decides they want to rent a yacht for the day and travel to St. Croix, but Sherman wasn't aware that he was prone to seasickness, so he and his girlfriend got off of the boat and they decided that they were going to try and stay in a hotel somewhere, spend the night somewhere else, not on this boat. As the two try to get a hotel, Sherman realizes that he has no money, no credit cards. He left all of his stuff on the boat. So he goes to this small inn and he explains his situation to this guy that was working the front desk. And he said, listen, if you let us stay here, I'll come back in the morning and I'll go get my wallet. I'll come back in the morning and I'll give you some money. And he says that this innkeeper said to him, yeah, sure, you can stay here if your girlfriend will sleep with me. So they get turned down, they go to another inn, they get turned down at that inn, and Sherman tells his girlfriend, look, it is a gorgeous night. Why don't we just lay out on the beach, sleep on the beach? And so they did. But that is all that Sherman Kelly remembers clearly. Sherman and his girlfriend were victims of the notorious Fountain Valley Gang, who in 1972 murdered 8 tourists and wounded 8 more. They were devastating St. Croix tourism at this time. And what happened after all of this was actually pieced together through bits of Sherman's memory and recollections of other people. So according to all of the accounts, while sleeping on the beach, Sherman and his girlfriend were attacked by 5 gang members. They were attacked with baseball bats, and Sherman's girlfriend was raped by the gang leader. But Sherman's girlfriend later reports that she remembers there was a moment where Sherman regained consciousness during the attack and he did try and fight back. He fought back enough to make enough noise that he actually ended up scaring off the attackers. There is only one hospital in St. Croix and Sherman and his girlfriend managed to make it there. In his interview with journalist Mike Morsch, Sherman Kelly recalls, I woke up to the sound of my hospital roommate screaming in pain. Finally, the screaming stopped and I heard 2 doctors talking about him. The doctor said, that's it, he's gone. And then one doctor said, pointing at Sherman Kelly, what about him? You think he's going to make it? And then the other doctor said, no, I doubt it. This is when Sherman Kelly realizes that they were talking about him. He barely made it out of this attack alive. After spending several days in that St. Croix hospital, Sherman is now going to return to St. Thomas, and this is where he's just going to stay with a friend until he's recovered enough to make it home to New York. And once he's at a New York hospital, the doctors are able to re-break and reset the bones in his face. And they're able to address all of his other injuries, and now Sherman is going to recover from this brutal attack. Once Sherman returns home to Ithaca, New York, he is able to rest, relax. He is still in constant pain. He has constant headaches. He says that he was in no shape to be in a band, to play shows, but that did not stop him from writing some songs. And this is when he starts to write the lyrics for Dancing in the Moonlight. Sherman would say that his response to this brutal attack was this beautiful song that he made. He said, quote, I felt that I was rewarded for taking this horrible bummer and getting it up onto higher ground, celebrating the positive. I think the universe enjoyed my response. Lyrics to Dancing in the Moonlight. We like our fun and we never fight. You can't dance and stay uptight. It's a supernatural delight. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. The silicone chip inside her head gets switched to overload, and nobody's gonna go to school today. She's gonna make them stay at home. On January 29th, 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer decided that she was bored, she didn't like Mondays, and she was going to shoot at the elementary school across the street from her home. On that Monday morning, Brenda Spencer would kill a principal, a custodian, 8 children, and a police officer because she didn't like Mondays. But we all know that wasn't the real reason. In 1978, Brenda Spencer was referred to a facility for problem students, and they informed her parents that she was suicidal. But her parents didn't do anything. They didn't try to seek help for this child. For Christmas in 1978, Brenda's father gave her a Ruger 1022 semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle with telescopic sight and 500 rounds of ammunition. And with that gun on the morning of Monday, January 29th, 1979, Brenda Spencer would begin shooting at young children from her house. Brenda fired 36 times. She then barricaded herself inside of her home, and while she was there, she would speak by telephone to a reporter from the Evening Tribune. This reporter had been randomly calling numbers in the neighborhood. Brenda would tell this reporter that she shot at the school children and the adults because I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. Brenda Spencer would eventually surrender and would be charged as an adult. She would end up pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon. On April 4th, 1980, this was the day after her 18th birthday, she was sentenced to concurrent terms of 25 years to life in prison. During an interview, Brenda Spencer was asked why her dad had bought her a rifle, and she told the interviewer he bought the rifle so I would kill myself. I asked for a radio and I got a rifle. She would also admit that she wanted the police to shoot her. When Bob Geldof, singer of the band Boomtown Rats, read about what Brenda Spencer did, he was most struck by her claim that she did this because she did not like Mondays, and this is when he began writing a song called I Don't Like Mondays. The song was released in July 1979, and it was #1 for 4 weeks in the United Kingdom. It was the band's biggest hit in their native Ireland. We will dig deeper into this tragedy and Brenda Spencer's life on an upcoming episode of Residue. Singer-songwriter Bob Geldof actually read about Brenda's story from communication through a telex machine. And a telex machine is a system that allows text-based messages to be sent and received by a teleprinter over telephone lines. Lyrics from I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats. The telex machine is kept so clean, and it types to a waiting world. Her mother feels so shocked. Her father's world is rocked, and their thoughts turn to their own little girl. Sweet 16 ain't that peachy keen. Now it ain't so neat to admit defeat. They can see no reasons, 'cause there are no reasons. What reasons do you need? I don't like Mondays, tell me why. I don't like Mondays, tell me why. I don't like Mondays. I want to shoot the whole day down. Down, down, shoot it all down. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Residue. I appreciate you all so very much. If you enjoyed Residue, please hit that follow button at the top of your screen wherever you are listening. If you're following the show, then you'll know when to meet us back here every Tuesday for another episode of Residue. Also, I was thinking about it. If you guys wanted to get me something for Christmas, you could always leave me a 5-star review or follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at Residue Podcast, Facebook at Residue, a true crime podcast, and TikTok at Residue Podcast. Honestly, the best thing you could do to help out this show is just share, and share. Share the episodes, share my social media post, tell your friends about Residue. Residue is created, hosted, produced, and edited by Chrissy Champagne. That's me. I cannot wait to see you guys again next week, and until then, stay safe and stay paranoid.